Hello again and welcome to the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and anything franchising. And today we're in Melbourne in beautiful Toorak, and we're at the offices of Specialised Events with Managing Director Tim Collett. Tim, how you going?
Hi Glenn, isn't it wonderful to see each other outside the show? Welcome to the office.
It is. I've never been to your office before, have I?
Some people don't believe we have an office. They think we might live at the exhibition centre between shows and just hide in the cupboards,
like a dark kitchen type of thing, like you're a virtual business.
Maybe, but we do have an office. We've got 8 staff here. We're here all year round and working on the shows and making them as good as we possibly can.
Excellent. And for those who don't know, who are listening to this, so you Specialised Events, you run the Franchising Expo, and what's the other show? The food show. Your other show is called?
So the Franchising Business Opportunities Expo is where most people would know us from.
That's the correct title. Yes.
And but we also run another show called Foodservice Australia, which is a show where all the restaurants and caterers and retail stores come to discover all the new food, drink and equipment. And we run one in Brisbane too, Food and Hospitality Queensland, which again is a trade show for the food industry to come and see all the new products. So we run 5 or 6 shows a year. We run 2 food shows and 2 or 3 franchising shows every year. And obviously we need to have those organised. We need to help all the exhibitors. We need to organise exhibitors, visitors, mechanics, marketing.
There's a lot going on in shows.
There's a lot going on, and it takes 12 months to pull together an event.
Yeah. So how many events is that you've got a year then that you're running? So they're pretty big events, I know.
About 5 or 6.
5 or 6 a year.
Yeah. This year it'll be 4 because we've pulled franchising back to Melbourne, Sydney for this year while the industry bounces back. But we'll be heading back to Brisbane and Perth with the franchising shows in due course.
Excellent. So I'm sure everyone listening to this, being corporate type people or people in business, have been to shows. But I reckon that there's a thing that we all know that the consumer facing or the attendee shows, or even as a little bit of an exhibitor, but everyone knows attendee. I'm interested to know what it's like running a show. So I think there's a lot of people out there would have no idea what's involved in running a show like you do. Tell me about. Well, let's before we do that, how you got into this? How did you get into this? Because we sort of started chatting and we had a little bit of a debrief there, and I've sort of jumped ahead there. How did you get into running shows? Okay,
well, we've got to go back 30 years.
Going back a long way.
Believe it or not.
Okay.
So I started very young. And going through uni, I loved sailing, I loved boats, and I worked in a boat shop, the yacht shop out in Oakley. That was my part-time job through uni, and loved it. Loved it a lot. Part of that, we did boat shows each year, and we go into the Royal Exhibition buildings here in Melbourne and towing boats and setting up boats. And in those days,
boat shows are huge, aren't they? They're
boat
massive.
shows are huge. Yeah. They've been huge. Back in the old days, shows evolve, and the boat show back then, it was all indoors, and it was in the old hall. We literally had to lift some boats up onto the balcony.
I was going to say boats on trailers and all sorts of stuff.
Boats on trailers, yeah, all that sort of thing. And the shows used to go for 9 or 10 days. So you sort of move in there and live this boat show experience. There's a special bar there for exhibitors, and I felt very special as a young person doing this thing. And
that was while you were still at uni?
I loved it. That was while I was still at uni. I loved it. And I thought, I could keep doing this forever. And my dad said, Tim, you know what? You don't want to be the one selling the boats. You want to be the ones buying the boats.
So, absolutely, yes. Wise words.
And eventually I did finish my arts degree.
And you bought a boat?
And I was hoping Dad would buy me a boat. He never did.
No, never going to happen.
And I looked around for a career, and I thought, exhibitions, I really quite like exhibitions. It was just one of the things I looked around at. And I wrote, at the time, the big show in Melbourne was the big PC show. It was in Melbourne and Sydney, and it was huge.
Personal computer show?
Personal computer show. Used to block off the city with the traffic. Everyone went to the PC show. And the company that ran that was Australian Exhibition Services. And I sent the managing director, Graeme Selby, a note. And I just said, look, I love what you're doing. I would love to get involved. Do you have any openings? And surprise, surprise, he actually wrote back to me. He said, we might be interested. Why don't you come in for a chat? And that was down on St Kilda Road, 424 St Kilda Road, Allura Plaza.
You remember it well?
17 years I was there. And I went in and they said, look, we've got a position, sales position, account manager, sales executive on the food show. What do you want to do? Who are you? All those, we chatted through that. He said, look, we might start you on that on an hourly rate and just see how you go. And I thought he said, $14 an hour. I thought, oh, yeah, it's not a lot, but that's okay.
How much was it?
It turned out to be $40 an hour.
Oh,
which was great.
I thought you were about to tell me it was like
no, because I think the boat, I think it was $12 an hour or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was pretty cool. And they started me on the food show, and I sat there. Well, they all flew to Sydney for a Christmas party. They didn't take me, and
feeling very wanted.
I'm not sure they ever made me permanent. I think, but I was there for 17 years. Predominantly working on food shows in those days for that business. And the funny thing was the first show they took me away to work on was Brisbane City Hall, and it was a franchising show, would you believe? Because the franchising show was started by Graeme and Susan Selby 36 years ago, and they took me up to the Brisbane show, and the other new staff member they took was a young lady called Fiona Stacey.
Who, people who are listening to this or watching this won't know, Fiona is the event manager, is that right?
She's for the franchising exhibition manager now. So, I mean, we've had a journey
together
over all that time. Fiona ran the franchising shows for Australian Exhibition Service for a long, long time, loved it, loves the exhibitors, hasn't changed. We still have the same discussions because she loves the show, she loves the exhibitors, and I'm always the one saying, well, Fiona, we actually have to make money at the end of this. We actually, sometimes we have to put the price up a little bit, and sometimes we need to do. And anyway, she loves the show. She loves the exhibitors. She went away. She went overseas. She had babies. She did a whole lot of things. And I stayed there. And Australian Exhibition Services became diversified and became owned by an American group. And I was there for 17 years. They were good years. I was very lucky to learn from that. So that's how I got into the industry. That's how I learnt it all.
So, before we move on to that stuff, what were your impressions of franchising as a newbie in 1993? Like, what was the market like then?
Yeah, it was all new. I knew nothing about franchising. It was interesting because Brisbane City Hall, well, for a start, is round.
Yeah.
And putting an exhibition in a round hall is tricky.
Yeah.
And it wasn't air conditioned.
Yeah.
And we had cockroaches, which was big as a rat.
That's for visitors only.
And Graeme and Susan were not impressed by that.
No, I can imagine.
And I remember walking in there, and there was something called a Subway, and I thought, what the hell is that? And that was before they even came out here. They came out to the franchising show
early.
Must have been 93.
Yep. Really
early, and they did this. That'll never work. That's crazy stuff. And then we had a couple of the, I won't name names, some of the pizza companies, you probably know I'm talking about way back in the 90s. There were a few pizza companies that were very, very competitive.
Oh, yes.
And I think there might have almost been, one or two altercations about who got the better side and who was where. And for me, it was like, oh my gosh, what is all this? The show was full. It was really busy.
Yeah.
It was exciting. And franchising, I observed it and I went to a few, but really, I was a food show and Fiona was looking after the franchising show. They also ran robotics shows and engineering shows and other shows.
What struck you about the attendees? Did anything strike you about the attendees and the differences between food show people, because you're spending so much time on it, and franchising attendees?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And obviously now, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm actively involved in the franchising shows. Going back then, I mean, the big difference is one show is purely trade. So the people who come to the food shows are cafe operators, they're chefs, they're caterers, they're supermarket operators.
Very pre-qualified to that industry.
Very pre-qualified. Yeah. They must be in the industry. They can't bring their kids, and we know who they are. So bang, bang, bang. Every year we can build on that and build those relationships, those databases. Franchising show is essentially a public show, so anyone can come. You buy your ticket or you register with your free ticket. You can come to the show. So it's a public show. Anyone can come. We love kids. We love the public coming.
See lots of them there. Yeah.
But having said that, it's a qualified audience. So you've got to go out. You've actually got to. It's a tricky show to promote because you've got to go out to everyone, but you only want people who want to start their own business. Well, I think we all know how hard it is to find those people.
I was about to say, how do you find them?
Well, you've got to use the mass media, which is tricky. In those days, it was television and newspaper.
So the channels were really quite narrow those days, weren't they?
Yeah, it was much easier. Much easier. Yeah. You ran a TV ad for 2 weeks. You put some ads in the newspaper. You put it in the jobs section in the classifieds, plus one or two, early general news. bam, there you go. And
I remember the same. I remember
numbers.
the early days of franchising when I'm talking not early days of franchising, but say 2006, 2007, 2008, when I was working in franchising, putting it out in the Courier Mail on the weekend, and the phone would ring off, well, not ring off the hook, but you'd get 30 or 40 calls straight off that ad.
It was great. And we would do an ad in the newspaper, or I guess Fiona was looking after it, and Graeme, with a coupon on it.
Yeah.
So people would come to the show with a coupon and get a 2-for-1 or get a half price ticket, and we could count the coupons, so we knew what was working. It was sort of a simpler time.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? Because a lot of people talk about how amazing this time is right now for marketing. Oh, how easy is it? You can target everyone. You can do this. You can do that. How things are supposedly so much better for marketing.
Fascinating, isn't it? Because on the internet's free, right? Email's free.
Of course, yeah. And totally cheap.
Yeah, incredible. And you can just put a post on Facebook and everyone will read it. Wow. Yeah. I'm not sure that was ever the case, but it's definitely not now.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend a lot of money on Google Ads and on building databases and sending emails out. It's expensive.
Yes.
And it's noisy, and it's not as scientific.
Yeah, it's not as targeted as people think.
I mean, Facebook is really hard to target now because they make it harder. And also since all the privacy settings have been turned on, because we all read on our phone now, the privacy settings on Apple, and it makes it really hard to target people. So it's I know we're sort of jumping ahead.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, but it has changed. It's evolved. We spend a lot of money on online advertising, but we do that to promote almost the oldest form of marketing, which is face-to-face.
Yeah.
Exhibitions have been around for 100 years.
I mean, I suppose it's a real key point of difference, isn't it? So when there's so many other marketing strategies out there and consultants offering all sorts of services in marketing, that good old face-to-face channel that you dominate basically for franchising, obviously you own it, is a key value proposition to fit into someone's marketing mix.
Well, it does. It is, because it's different, and it works, and it's engaging, and it's two-way, and it's one of the very rare opportunities where people come to you. So we do the hard work. We do the online advertising. We still do a little bit of direct mail. We do a lot of emailing. We do a lot of we work with a lot of magazines. We work with people like yourself too, and do joint advertising to get people along. We also do radio. So we're doing the work to get everyone in one spot. And the show, having all the franchises together, is an attraction in itself. So we can bring everyone to you, and you can stand there and talk to them. And by talking to them, they're real people, and you can talk to people's partners. You can see their kids. You can get a feel for how enthusiastic
it can accelerate
they
the
are.
whole process, can't it? It can really accelerate it.
It is, because starting a business is a journey. And if we can make that journey a bit smaller and a bit more effective, move people from here to here, or here to here, or hopefully from there to there, then that the show does its job. None of this is easy. We know that, but it does help, and it is effective. So
how did you get to where you are now? So we'll backtrack a little bit now, because we've skipped ahead and now we go back, but that's fine. We can go whichever direction we want. So you and Fiona are working together. You're doing the food show still. Fiona's doing the franchising show. An American multinational has purchased the rights, I gather. That's right. And that was around 2000? That was around about 2000. The Australian Exhibition Services was taken over by an American group, and Fiona by that stage had a family and moved to China and did a few different things. I was still there for a few more years and did enjoy that, but eventually you've got to make that decision. Do I want to do this for my whole life, or do I want to go and do something different? By staying in the same place doing the same thing, I could see myself losing the passion, and you also hold other people back. So I did leave that business and had a look around and took some time off, did some travel. I was lucky. I could take some time off and do some travel and spend time with my young family. And when did you leave that business? That was 2008, 2009, thereabouts. And then I looked around for what I wanted to do, and I did work in an investment business, which is in food, for about a year or two. But I felt that calling. Yeah, I missed events. Before we do that, in what aspect of food was it in?
Yeah, I was working for a company called Yarragum. It was set up to invest in Australian food businesses. So it was money coming out of Asia, and they wanted to invest in Australian food businesses. So it was actually great for me because I love food and I love people and I love going to events. And so I
know, I see it on your Facebook feed every time. Every time you go to an event, there's a photo of food.
I do love food.
I know you do.
And I love the industry as much as I love franchising. And that kept my connections fresh. And the opportunity then came up to actually acquire an existing food show. It wasn't the one that I worked on. It was a different one. And that opportunity came up from an industry association that owned a show and had people manage it for them. They came to me and said, what should we do? And I said, well, I think you probably should sell it to me and I can invest in it and grow it back.
So because this is an interesting spot there, were you thinking about that prior to this, or where did that come from? Or was it just
a bit opportunistic.
Yeah.
I think I was bowling at the Toorak Bowls Club, which is something you do when you're slightly, you know, when you turn 40 and you're not sure what you want to do, you take up bowls. Much else.
Yeah, why not?
And I was working, but we had a group of men who were all sort of in this sort of career hiatus, and we had bowls.
That's quite a visual. And 40-year-old bowls, Toorak.
It's great, and get a beer at 1980s prices.
Excellent.
And free parking. So, and so one of the people I was with, they said, "Oh, look, the association want to have a chat to someone about what they should do with their show." And I said, "Well, you know, I as I said, I met with them. I said, someone needs to invest in this. Someone needs to own it. Someone needs to rebuild this show because there needs to be this show." And one thing led to another, and within a few months, we'd set up a new business, Specialised Events, and we acquired the show, and then we started working on rebuilding that show, which was about rebuilding an audience, which comes down to promotion and getting all the right people back, features, branding, marketing, and getting on the phone and calling people.
So is most of the work in that building an exhibitor audience?
Yeah, look, that's where most of the time is. Yeah. So you've got to get the right concept. You know, what's the show about? Who's it aimed at? Who should exhibit? Who should visit? When
is there
will it be?
Is there a gap? Is there a gap in that? Yeah.
Where's the venue? Yeah. How do you price it? How do you market it? What's the logo? What's the image? All those things you need to get the concept right, and then you will spend a long time calling potential exhibitors and getting them excited about that concept.
So do you call a whole bunch of potential exhibitors and float these ideas to them? Is that how you start a show like that, for example?
I mean, we have to go out with a pretty firm idea of what we're doing.
I'd imagine,
we have to book the venues at least a couple of years ahead.
Yeah.
And that involves booking and paying a very large deposit.
I don't think a lot of people realise that, just how far in advance you have to do this
now
sort of stuff.
We're up to booking 6 or 7 years ahead. And you've got to know how big the show's going to be. And then you've got to allow for growth. And that's quite tricky.
Yeah.
And we commit years ahead to the venue is the obvious one, but you know we need staff to ring. I can't do it all myself, and we then need to start. That takes a lot of our time. As we get closer to a show, you then have to start a visitor campaign to bring visitors in, the right visitors, and enough. And the logistics of a show, once you have the systems in place and once you've had that experience, they're actually, funnily enough, that's not the hardest bit. That's what people think we do all year. It's not. You know, the mechanics of running a show, we're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And I have people here, ops people and marketing people.
The actual mechanics of running the show a lot wouldn't change year on year,
Not really, no. Not really. I mean, the carpet goes down, the shell scheme goes up, the power goes through, the plumbing, the lighting, the signage, the ticketing. You know, it's you want to do it well, you want to do it professionally, but it doesn't change a lot from year to year. And so we did that, and the show was, that food show was small, and it's grown and grown and grown. Now it's quite a big show. It's got about 400 exhibitors and about 10,000 visitors. So that's a big show. And then, of course, franchising came along.
How did that happen? So you've got your first show. How long did you run your first show before that first food show?
Look, it was a year or two. So we're up to about 2011, 2012 now. And then about 18 months in, I had a call from Graeme Selby, funnily enough, and he said, look, Diversified want to sell the franchising show.
Who had the franchising show at that time?
They had the franchising show. So AES became Diversified. They had this franchising show. They were keen to sell it. They I guess decided that it wasn't a core event for them.
Yep.
And the show needed to go someone who really wanted to run it. And
So
And
how do those transactions normally happen? Do they put the feelers out to a number of people who they think might be right in the space within the industry?
Yeah, they do.
And see who?
They do. And fortunately, Graeme Selby connected me back with them.
Yeah.
And we negotiated over, that's not just the price. There's obviously money involved, but it's, the handover and existing relationships and the relationship with the Franchise Council, for example, which was a long-term relationship. And we needed to talk to FCA, and we needed everyone to want this to happen. And then obviously, I gave Fiona a call and said, "Are you interested?" And she absolutely loved the idea and jumped in and said, "Let's do it." And so we went ahead and acquired the show. We set up a new relationship with the FCA.
So that's an important stakeholder relationship, that isn't it? Because that really, I mean, the FCA backing of you gives a real legitimacy to that. Without them involved and actively involved, it's difficult for both, isn't it?
Absolutely. And look, we have a great relationship with the FCA, and that's been there from day one. In fact, the FCA and the show was set up at a similar time, funnily enough. And it's always been a good relationship because it's a real win-win. The FCA and the members of the FCA, they want franchising to grow and to be recognised as a legitimate and attractive model for people to get into business. And the franchise show gives it that public face. It's the most obvious.
It's a real
public
vehicle
face.
And showcase for it, isn't it?
Yeah, because not just about the individual exhibitor, it's about telling the world that franchising is a great way to improve your life. It's a great way to get that flexibility and freedom and self-control and build an asset. It's learn about business, be your own boss.
Which is, I think I told you earlier on, as we were talking about this before we got on air, we've been doing a number of these podcasts with a number of franchise owners on their franchise owner journey. The exact keywords they're using: flexibility, freedom, set my own hours, be my own boss. They're all the things existing franchise owners say. It's not just a pipe dream that people are talking about when they go in. They're still saying it. And this morning we met with ones who've been for 11 years, still saying the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's some people want to run their own business and some people are happy just to go to work every day. But if you want to start your own business, having started this business, it's hard. You suddenly got to learn about leases. You got to learn about staff and IR and, at invoicing, paying bills, dealing with contractors, signing contracts, putting together contracts, office furniture. It's a minefield.
It's a very steep learning curve if you don't have a system around it.
Very steep learning curve. So why reinvent that? If someone is running a great cafe or a bookkeeping service and they've got all of that sorted and it's something that can be replicated, well, why go and reinvent the wheel? Why not work with that person? This is what's, I'm telling you how to suck eggs, but this is the beauty. The franchising is such an obvious model because someone's already done the work. And you can start a business. You can take all of their learnings and systems and branding and you can run that, create a business for yourself and also share the benefit with the original party. So it's in everybody's interest to work together. And you can do a hell of a lot more than if you were going to go out and start a cafe or a bookkeeping business yourself, because you will spend years
trying to learn the same things. So franchising show, so you've got that. What year did you grab that and start running it?
I think that was 13.
2013? 13
or 14. Yeah. And look, it did take a little while for people to learn who we were and trust us.
I seem to remember because I think I was telling you before, I think I've been at every Franchising Expo bar one for 10 or 11 years.
Yeah.
I know I didn't do Perth once. Sorry, didn't do Perth once. I seem to remember there being a bit of a feeling when internet was really taking hold and newspapers were dropping and radio was dropping in 2010, 11, 12, that face-to-face shows were not the thing anymore.
Absolutely, there was.
There was a real feeling around that time.
Yeah, there was, because everyone saw everything changing. And they just thought, when everything changes, everything changes. But sometimes the old ways of doing things work. And we found the same thing funnily enough, through COVID, that people think, oh, well, we can do it all online now. I don't need to travel. This is easy. And, why haven't you set up an online show?
Yeah.
And how many people? I get emails every day about online shows.
I get stuff on it as well. I've seen it. It's just not the same.
It's not the same. We eventually did send one up. Have a look. Find myfranchise.com.au. It's there. And
Didn't I have that you
helped us.
Didn't I have that URL sometimes?
You helped us with that, and
That's right.
it's got a whole list of franchises. It's got some videos. And it's got some lovely
Might have done some videos or something.
things on it. I knew it wouldn't work.
But
We all knew it wouldn't work.
You had to try it?
We had to try it because everybody was saying, why haven't you done it? And we didn't have a lot else to do during COVID. We had 2.5 years where we couldn't run shows. And we tried it, and I knew it didn't work, and I wasn't disappointed.
You knew it was going to happen.
It's still there if you want to go and have a look.
Yeah, I know.
Find my franchise.
No, I'll give it a miss, thanks. I'll give it a miss. So what was that COVID period like? So how do you shut a business down like that? And in a business that has bookings 2, 3, 4, 5 years in advance.
Yeah.
How does that all work? What was your
scariest time of my life?
Yep.
To be honest, not that you could show that.
No.
At the time, you had to be strong because we've got 8 staff here. We were here in this office, and we were, I think, 10 days out from franchise show in Sydney.
I remember that. We were about to do a show, weren't we? And we thought, ugh. And you actually called up getting thoughts of people, and I spoke to you. You called me and said, "What do you think?"
We did ring it because for a period of time there, it was probably a week. It was still touch and go.
Yeah, it was.
And we did talk, and we did ring quite a few exhibitors. Say, "What do you think?" And then in the end, the staff came in here, and they said, "We're going to have to go home." Getting emotional thinking about it now.
Yeah,
actually.
It was challenging. Yeah, no,
it was very challenging.
I totally feel.
And we thought, well, we'll have to cancel the show.
Yeah.
And we did. 8 days out, I think it was. Well, we didn't know if we were going to get our money back from the tenancy, the venue.
There was so much uncertainty.
Harry's had already printed most of the signage,
and that's Harry's
Harry the hirer who built our shows. I mean, they'd started loading trucks. So all the stands in Sydney all come from Melbourne on trucks, rightly or wrongly, but that's the way it works.
Yep.
Carpet, a couple of semis of carpet, shell scheme, fascia, signage. They were already loading trucks, and we decided we couldn't run. This is all about the same time as we were talking to our staff about working from home. We had to let the exhibitors know. We'd already started spending a lot of money on visitor promotion. The tickets had gone out.
I was going to say, what sort of sunk dollars is into something like that by that time? I mean, 8 days out from a show, that's almost all done, isn't it?
Yeah, almost all done. I mean, we'd spent, because we have to prepay everything. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm sitting here not knowing what's going to happen, and then suddenly we're told, well, we have to go home. There was no JobKeeper at that point. There was nothing, and it was scary.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So we called the show off, and we let everyone know, and then we sort of take a deep breath.
And hold out and see what the next steps are.
Because it was always a couple of months at a time.
There was a bit of a lag there, wasn't there? There was
this will be a couple of months. So we started, the venues actually were quite good. They said, all right, we'll move your tenancy. And they push it back 6 months. And we actually kept all of our staff on through that time, right through the 2.5 years. We kept the office, not that we could use it. But we kept all the staff, we kept the office, we kept communicating because we knew when it came back, it would come back quickly, and we thought it'd come back strong. And this is our business. This is what we do. And so we had to keep the shows alive.
You had to be ready, didn't you?
We had to be ready. And what we did each time was we postponed it. And I know this drove people mad. We postponed it 6 months, and then another 6 months, and then another 6 months. Every time we postponed, it was new, update the website, get out tickets in some cases, let all the exhibitors know, recontract them. The exhibitors were great. They were by and large really supportive, but also confused and a little bit scared themselves.
So we're all in the same situation in many ways, yeah.
So, we just on the phone talking to people, kept it going. Some other organisers just let everyone go and stopped. We didn't do that. We thought that was the wrong thing to do. For a relatively small business, it was tough. There was no insurance, absolutely no insurance, and JobKeeper did come in a week or two later, thank God. Yeah. And that lasted 7-8 months. Yep. And then we just had to. How did we survive? We dug into our reserves. Yep. Fortunately, we'd been around for 8 or 9 years at that point, and we dug into our reserves and kept going.
So how's emerging been? So what was the emerging looking like, and what was did you have a vision that it was going to then kick back up and get rolling? So what has the last 18 months been like in the business?
Super busy.
Yep.
Super busy. We had no idea what it was going to be like coming out. In fact, I literally moved out of Melbourne down to Sorrento. You know how tough we had it here in Melbourne, and I noticed Dan Andrews.
You're a bit of a bay life person, aren't you? Yeah.
Dan Andrews resigned today.
Yeah, I know you
I won't be shedding too many tears.
You greeted me with that when we walked in this morning.
And we had a tough time here in Melbourne, so it was hard to know how it would come out, but we were ready.
Yep.
And in actual fact, Australia Day last year, 2022, we were sitting there, looked like we were going to come out. We had a food show scheduled for the end of February, and literally Australia Day, which is a month, might have been 6 weeks out, so maybe just before Australia Day, we said, right, we're going to go for it. Mm-hmm. Every other show had been cancelled. We came back. We were the first show back. We were the first big show back, which was the food show, late February, best show I've ever run.
Wow.
And we were in the build-up. We had masks.
Yep.
And then the day before the show opened, they announced that you didn't have to wear masks. And it was this freedom.
Yeah. I remember when we had the franchising show was shortly after that.
And then the franchising show came shortly after that.
And the exhibitor drinks is the first time we could stand up and drink alcohol together.
Yeah, so that's things we're like, we hadn't done it. We hadn't done it in years.
Hadn't done it in that.
And how much fun.
You're responsible enough to drink alcohol together now.
Yes, you're all grown up, so you can drink alcohol standing up.
Thank you very much.
Even that show was still discussion about whether you can stand up, because that was Sydney and the rules were a bit different. But everyone was so happy and everyone was so excited. And I've got to say,
I remember it.
Thanks to the exhibitors for sticking by us. It was tough for them too.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them had paid, and we kept rolling it over, and it was tough. It was tough for everyone.
Yeah.
We got through. We got through. We came back strong. The shows came back strong. Most of it was rollover stuff, and it was really great. It was really exciting to be back. Everyone was just so happy.
And it's great. The last one was great too. So the last one we just had. So what was the one we had? We've had Sydney and Melbourne this year. Yeah, and they're flying along beautifully.
That's the interesting thing. And we look, last year's shows, franchise-wise, we had great turnout of exhibitors, but the visitor numbers were actually, funnily enough, were down.
So you had exhibitors, but visitors down. Yeah,
visitors were down last year, and you need both.
That was sentiment, was it, or just general feeling of uncertainty? Do you think?
I think it was a little bit of uncertainty, and I think it was. I think we reflect the industry.
Yep.
So the franchise show reflects the franchising industry, and last year was really tough to get people interested in starting a business. Interest rates are up. There were COVID concerns. People have been working from home.
People talking about
Ukraine. A bit unsure.
People talking about Ukraine and things like that. Yeah, there was a lot happening last year.
It wasn't the time when people wanted to start a business.
Yep.
And we ran great. Look, I think they were great shows, but certainly we noticed a drop in visitor numbers. The good thing this year, this is 22, 23, the numbers jumped back up, 30% up this year in Melbourne and Sydney. And that was a relief, I think, for us and for the exhibitors. And suddenly what we're seeing is people with families. We're seeing different ethnic groups come again. We actually lost the families and ethnic groups last year, which is a real worry because they are very entrepreneurial and they make up a lot of the franchise. New
immigrants to Australia coming in wanting to really make their stronghold and really build wealth for their family and really lay a foundation for sure.
That's right. And so they're all back this year. And I think the next few years for franchising are going to be good.
Yeah, I think so too.
There's all sorts of negative talk in the paper about the economy, but I think these are going to be boom years for franchising because people want to take control of their lives. That's why COVID was so hard. We lost control. Like I lost control pretty much of my business and events and everything else, and we weren't even allowed to go outside and walk for more than 15 minutes in Victoria. So taking back control of your life
is getting your own business where you control your own hours.
One way of doing that is working for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want to work for yourself, franchising.
Yep. Yeah, interesting. You've mentioned a couple of times we had a good show. What do you say is a good show? What makes a good show?
A good show is lots of exhibitors and lots of visitors because we're in the business of matching.
I would say that. Of course.
Well, we've got to match them. There's no point having exhibitors, no visitors. No point having lots of visitors and no exhibitors. We're actually in the business of bringing everyone together at the same time in the same place. I mean, you want it to run smoothly.
Yes.
You want it to be happy and you want everyone to get a good experience out of it. Well, that's about the exhibitor meeting the right prospects.
Yes.
You know, they want us to run the show properly and smoothly and have drinks and all that sort of stuff. But really what they're there for is to meet prospective franchisees. And if they do that, they're happy. For a visitor, if they come and they see a good range of franchise
good mix
systems,
of brands,
they're going to be happy. You go back a few years and people would walk, oh, it's not enough here. You know, where's the big brands and why aren't they here? And, the show is in a really good spot, I think, at the moment.
I think so too. There's the previous thing that a show would be all service brands and cheap franchise and everything. It's not at all. There's a real mix.
It's interesting. And every year you think, oh, well, I'm going to see the same people. And every year it's 30 or 40% new brands.
Well, I thought the shows this year showed an entrepreneurial sort of spirit or fervour in the country or whatever, because there were so many new brands that I'd never seen or heard before.
There were. And there was a good mix. There was some food. There
More
was,
than I can recall
accounting,
ever.
There was education. There was car washing. There was the promotional goods. There were a really good range.
Yeah.
And you could just see, because not just about, in terms of a busy show and, you know, that elusive buzz.
Yeah.
It's about busy aisles and people, you can actually literally see people smiling. And a busy show is about obviously getting a good crowd through, but it's also about how long they stay. And if they walk through it and, you know, in 30 minutes and walk out, then it's not going to be busy and buzzy. No. But if they come and stay for 2 or 3 hours.
3, 4, 5 hours, yeah.
You know, it gives it that atmosphere and that buzz. And we had that. We definitely had that in Melbourne and Sydney this year.
Yep.
Bit different to last year.
So you're seeing, as we wrap it up, are you seeing major changes in your approach to business, in your business? You're looking at adding on any new exhibitions and things like that? What do you see going forward?
Yeah, look, shows do constantly evolve. You know, a lot of the operational areas and the way we do things might replicate themselves from year to year, but we're always trying new things. You know, now a lot of it is obviously, a lot of our promotion now is online and learning how to do that. And that's, as you know, this is your business. It changes because the algorithms change and the way you do things change. We thought this year, do we go back to TV? Now, the funny thing about TV is nobody watches it, but it still costs just as much as it used to.
They're not letting that go.
They're not letting that go. No. So we're still looking at that. But one of the things we tried this year too is we give the exhibitors themselves an incentive to attract people to the show. So we give each of them a code for a free ticket, and they go out there, and then the one who gets the most visitors in, we give them a free stand, and that's caused a lot of excitement.
Yeah, great idea.
So getting whatever we can do to get more people to come to the show, we're always learning and getting smarter at that. In terms of the shows themselves, we bumped up this year. We had some paid speakers in the theatre to try and get a bit more broader interest.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Last year we introduced Start Your Own Business workshops, which are not actually about franchising. They're more general. They're about starting your own business. They've been really, really popular. And we actually start them before the show opens.
They're on in the mornings, aren't they?
They're on in the mornings.
Yeah, I see lots and lots of people sitting there.
Yeah, and they're super engaged.
Yeah, absolutely packed.
And it means when the show's open, you've actually already got people in there. And what we're thinking there is if people go, well, we want them to buy a franchise. Well, okay, let's get them excited about starting their own business. And then they'll see that franchising is one of the models and actually a really good one. And so we'll probably do more of that, more just general start your own business kind of promotion. Excellent. And work to get people to the show to learn about franchising.
Because it doesn't have to be a franchise exclusively. Starting your own business is enough. That means franchising is in the consideration set.
That's where the journey starts.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where the journey starts. We will keep working on how we can make exhibiting easier where we can, looking at different packages and ways we can do that and trying to smooth out the mechanics of it. That's just a constant job to try and reinforce. Really, it's how do we get more visitors? How do we get them to stay longer in the show? And that's evolving. I think we probably look at every 3 or 4 years we will change the colours and the branding to keep it fresh.
Yep.
We're probably due for that fairly soon too.
Yeah, it's about time, isn't it?
Fiona's on long service leave at the moment over in Europe, so she'll come back
revitalised,
and full of ideas, I'm sure. So we're fully committed to these shows, and we will keep pushing them as hard as we can. We'll keep working with the exhibitors to make sure they're getting what they want, and we'll keep working with the FCA. And look, we love it. We love the shows, and we're fully committed to them.
Excellent. It's a great way to finish. Tim Collett, Managing Director, Specialised Events. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Glenn.
And that's it for this episode of Franchise Everything. We'll catch you. I should be looking at this camera when I'm doing that. That's it for this episode of Franchise Everything. We'll catch you on the next one soon. As always, please do like, subscribe, rate, review, all that sort of stuff in all the platforms and streaming decks you're watching it on. And we'll catch you again soon in the next one.